one of the films from India a couple of years ago called All We Imagine Is Light went to the Grand Prix at Cannes and it won. And since then, there's been this really lovely new wave of cinema almost that's happening where a lot of filmmakers are being like, oh, we can actually send our films to these festivals that we were initially thinking that was beyond us. So the Indian indie cinema stage right now is blossoming, and I'm having a great time here. It's a beautiful new wave, and it's very exciting.
I want to welcome Manjari to the podcast. She writes New Age Directors on Substack and is just this great voice talking about different ways that we can approach filmmaking. So welcome to the show, Manjari.
Thank you so much, Alan. Lovely to be here. So excited to talk about this.
Absolutely. So just to set up, if you're not subscribed to New Age Directors, I suggest you check it out. And besides writing your Substack, what else are you doing in India these days?
Currently in Bombay, I'm also directing. I'm working on a feature of my own. At the same time, I've been participating in directing campaigns and music videos and ads. I'm also a screenplay writer, so I love writing screenplays as well as essays on Substack. That's something that's also very interesting. So very much working in between writing and directing.
So what's the state of the Indian film industry at this point? Are you in the Bollywood part of it, or are you in an independent or somewhere in between?
I have worked in the Hindi film industry. Yes, like I worked in mainstream cinema. I used to work for a production house called Yash Raj Films. So I've been there, but most predominantly where I am making and writing cinema is very much in the Indian indie film industry. So definitely more coming of age, more slower narratives that aim to go to festivals abroad. The status of that is very much like I think there is this gospel in the air about the fact that for a long time Indian films were not going to festivals, and they were not getting recognition because they were focused on a lot of incorporating a lot of celebrity culture and a lot of the theatrics fame and all of that. And now they're trying to strip all that back to focus more on story and narrative. One of the films from India a couple of years ago called All We Imagine Is Light went to the Grand Prix at Cannes and it won. And since then, there's been this really lovely new wave of cinema almost that's happening where a lot of filmmakers are being like, oh, we can actually send our films to these festivals that we were initially thinking that was beyond us. So the Indian indie cinema stage right now is blossoming, and I'm having a great time here. It's a beautiful new wave, and it's very exciting.
That sounds amazing. I remember seeing All We Imagine Is Light at the Film Forum. It played here, and just a stunningly beautiful film. Um, yeah, it really like it's such a captivating. The heart of like non-Bollywood or Hollywood type movies is really getting to the core of the human experience. It's closer to reading a novel than watching. I don't know, reading a People magazine or something, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's very similar. I think you were also mentioning you worked on Kal Ho Na Ho. Kal Ho Na Ho is very mainstream Hindi cinema, which is like you have these like musical numbers. It's very much like a musical theater film. That's exactly what it is. Which is again in its own sense very beautiful. And I grew up on that kind of cinema as well. But again, Indian indie cinema is definitely more homegrown stories, definitely slower in pace and very much about little corners of India that are not represented because they're not like glamorous and glitzy, which I think is equally important to have on screen.
I was lucky enough to do a movie in India about 20 years ago, and this was a precursor. So this was a man named Rajneesh who was studying here in New York. He was a grad student at Columbia. And instead of doing a short film for his thesis, he decided to do a feature. And he had James Schamus, the powerhouse writer, as one of his teachers. So he had the script. It was one of the best scripts I've ever worked on. The movie is called Vanaja, and it's about a young girl who has an alcoholic fisherman of a father. So her life's not going anywhere. So she kind of becomes the servant to this landlady that's nearby, who basically was a famous kuchipudi dancer. So she trains her in exchange for kind of almost slave labor or indentured servitude. But the young actress that played the main character and all the other actors were so fantastic. The director just trained them and so it wasn't a Bollywood kind of vibe at all. It honestly felt like we were shooting like a neo-realist film, more like Sajat Ray, or
Satyajit, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
it
Mm.
was really
It
cool.
it's
Go ahead.
it's very incredible as well. Yeah, definitely to expand on your point as well, which is India is again blossoming with all these subcultures and niche cultures. Where you said Kuchipudi is one of them, but even just the little languages that we have, all we imagine is like, for example, is in Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, and Kannada. So it's like four different regional languages, languages that we don't even get to see in a lot of our cinema. So I just think we're having a really exciting time almost getting to know our own country, where it's like where I sit in Bombay, I don't get to see a lot of Malayali cinema ever. At least never in my theater. So it's very exciting to be like, oh, I get to see Malayali theater. I get to see their art forms. I get to see their languages. And it's almost exciting for me as well to rediscover my own cinema.
100%. Yeah. No, I think it's just like here in New York, it's so different from other parts of America. It's the same thing. Like I can, travel around, I can drive, but that takes a lot of money and cost and time. I've got two little kids, so, no random road trips for dad, unless it's a movie
Yeah.
involved.
But always a
But
movie involved.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I love the
Yeah.
movie business. It's gotten me all over the world, to India, South Africa, all over the States, Europe, you know. Um, and one of the most fun things for us was we went twice. So our movie was in Telugu. It was so funny because our a camera assistant showed up. We had four people coming from America, and then the rest of the crew was Indian. And we had this really great crew of lighting people that I worked with. So I was the gaffer on the project for my mentor. Milton Cam was the DP, and then we had this incredible eight man lighting crew that drove in their bus. And they had the front third of the bus was where they stayed, the quarters. The middle part was a generator, and then the back third was all the gear, the lights, and then all the stands and ladders were on the roof. And like they just drove up from Chennai, and we shot in the near Hyderabad, basically in these little villages. But the coolest thing was going to the Indian cinema at this little village, and no matter where we went, there was always a cinema in the town, and it was just a beautiful experience because you can follow the stories. It was a Telugu cinema, uh, so it wasn't a Bollywood film that we saw, but we saw one where everybody had seen the movie at least 20 times because they were predicting every moment. The hero shows up. There's a big, like, there's a bad guy taking advantage of people in the town. Then the hero shows up. And it was so funny because they really, uh, like, the whole crowd started cheering. It was like we were at a rock concert or something. It was like they were
Yes.
so into the movie, right?
It's beautiful. I think that's one of my favorite things about mainstream Hindi industry cinema, which is that it's just so electric when you have these like dance item songs come up, because music is a very, very big thing when it comes to mainstream Indian cinema. And I hope to a large degree it also becomes a big thing in Indian indie cinema, because the way music moves that screen is incredible. But they release the songs before they release the film. Normally. So people start to look at the music lyrics, start to learn the lyrics. So by the time the film gets released, they're like, we know the song, we love the song, we know the lyrics, we know the choreography by heart. And the way that it takes over a theater is, I mean, it's been a long time since something like that has been released in India. Unfortunately, we are losing theater culture a lot in Bombay as well, which is the heart of cinema. But I really miss those times. What you're talking about is, I think, a couple of years ago at least.
Absolutely. Well, I think a big part of Substack's film discourse is, just getting people back into the cinema, giving people reasons. Either it's a micro cinema, maybe it doesn't have to be a major, like, 1,000 seat theater or anything like those days are gone. But if you can have, maybe a 50 seat, 100 seat theater, like in New York, we can manage to do that. There's some really good places here, but out in the rest of the world, in smaller towns, it's a little bit dicier of a prospect.
Yeah, I agree. And even just again, I think that one thing I keep telling my friends as well is very much like, please go to the cinema, please go see, these films in theater, because they keep waiting for it to drop on Netflix or Prime. But one thing I did read which really moved me, I think it was an Indian actor who said this, if I'm not wrong. was very much like it's not the job of people to go to the theater. It's our job to give them a reason to come. And it's very much again how I feel, which is I am very angry that we're not going to the theaters often. At the same time, I do agree that a lot of the mainstream cinema that's coming out in India, even to a large degree abroad, is not enticing enough to have a reason to buy that ticket and buy that popcorn and make 2 hours or 3 hours of your day to sit there. And I wish there were more films like that. And I hope they do come eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, America used to have this whole musical genre down, right? Like
Yeah.
in the 30s during the Great Depression, especially, and so everyone's lives were upturned by the depression, and then you can go and just get some frivolous fun entertainment at the musicals, whether it's Busby Berkeley doing his off Broadway shows, or if it's singing in the rain, things like that. So I feel like Bollywood learned a lot from those eras films, right?
Yeah, we did. We did. We had that. And I think, I mean, very equivalent, not completely equivalent, but during the 1900s, like when film became a thing in the 1930s, we were under colonization as well. So when we actually began making films, which was 1913s, 1915s, we were colonized. So a lot of it was escapism for us as well, which is like, how do we make these films that make us not think about the fact that we're currently under British rule and we need to not think about these, which is again why a lot of the mainstream Bollywood cinema is very escapist. It's very dance numbers and very, electrical music to make you not think too much about what's going on in your everyday life. But yeah.
Yeah, and then that kind of got replaced by superhero movies a little bit. I think those were the musicals of the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be something, in the 80s, it was the
Mm.
muscle bound, like Arnold Schwarzenegger type movies were escapist,
Yeah.
like, oh, we can go back to Vietnam and save some American POWs or something. And that, you know, revenge for Vietnam, losing that war, that kind of
Yes.
thing,
And
right?
yeah, we didn't have a superhero thing. I think we just always had like a hero archetype, which was very much like I think we were talking about this as well, which is like man comes, saves everything, damsel in distress, sort of stereotypical thing going on for us. We never really leaned into, we never had like a superhero sort of situation ever in India, which is very interesting actually now that you bring it up. It was always the guy, sometimes they had superpowers, but it was never like he's a superhero. It was very much like he is super powerful or he's super intelligent. But that's pretty much what we also had. But yeah.
Right. But did you grow up with any like maybe like were there movies of like the Ramayana or the like Hanuman's adventures, things like that? Would that be a sort of superhero thing coming bringing some of the stories from the Indian uh
Mythology.
yeah.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting that you bring it up because I am actually writing an article about this, which is the first couple of Indian films to come about, which is in the 1930s, 1950s, 1990s, were all about Hindu mythology. So they were like the first couple of films that the director Dala Saab Phulke he made was about the Ramayana. It was about Hanuman. It was about Krishna. So all of these like things, which is obviously if you build upon characters and you make films about characters that are already beloved and you rely on narrators that are tried and tested, it's gonna be a good film. Especially for the first couple of films to be. So yeah, I did watch those. Surprisingly, less of films of those and more TV series. A lot of TV serials made like episodic series of like because Ramayana and all of these mythologies are very, very, very fat books and they take a lot of like, as are most religious texts. So just so like they divided that into series. So there used to be these like Sunday mornings where I used to watch them. My family, particularly, they were not into that. It was my grandmother watched a lot of like the I don't know the English translation for this. It was very like Saas Bahu series, which is like it was a lot of family problems. So a lot of the series that we grew up watching, it was either between watching the Ramayana episodic series or it was about watching like a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law fight. So it was very it's very much those, yeah. Soap operas, yeah.
Right. Well, that's certainly a genre where you can never run out of stories with
Yeah.
in-laws and the old way and the old way, new way.
Yeah, and also on the same note that you bringing this up, I was the reason that I think that the Hindu mythology trope even began is also it works on tried and tested narratives. But now that AI films are coming into the world and are coming also into India, the first couple of pioneering AI films are also based around Hindu mythology. So they're using the same formula that we did almost a millennium ago, which is It's all the first couple of AI films are about Hanuman and Krishna, and these different studios are pouring in millions of rupees just to get the same sort of mythology going again and bring on that thing. Because a lot of Hindu mythology films, or they've all sort of faltered away because people are now relying more on like realistic storylines, as they are in Hollywood as well. Yeah.
So let's pivot over into how we're shooting our movies. So in your article that caught my attention, I really liked how you sort of talked about your experience going to see Mother with a filmmaking collective or a group of some sort, cinema society. So why don't you just tell us, if for people that haven't read that, what was your kind of entry into kind of thinking about these different formats?
Yeah. So the way that I got into that film club is very much so I'm very lucky to be in a city that's very cinema obsessed, and we love culture, we love cinema. So there are a lot of niche film clubs here and there. But just for me, I think I struggle a lot to watch a lot of art cinema alone. I don't like it. I think it makes me annoyed. I want to watch cinema with people. I believe that cinema is a collaborative shared sport that should always be seen with people. Therefore, having these clubs is always a great thing because it keeps me disciplined. Because I know Thursday evenings, I have to go there, I have to watch it with these people. And then there are always Q&As with random strangers. So it's a lovely thing as well. But the reason that I particularly got into the concept of why these formats are different and how they work is that my transition exactly from being in long format to like not exactly in short format, but experimenting with short format. So I was working on a bunch of campaigns, and when I was working on these campaigns, a lot of them were like being shot for Instagram, and they were being shot for the company's website. And just to approach that, but they wanted a cinematic lens. They wanted a story, they wanted characters, they wanted the entire production setup. So my mind was almost, it was glitching a little bit because I was like, why would you film something on Instagram? And if you do you want to film it in an Instagram ratio? And are you still allowed to call that a film? If just because you're calling it a short format film, are you still allowed to call it a short film even? To me, that almost felt like a disgrace of a thing. So when I did go to see Mommy by Xavier Dolan, I was genuinely very confused. I was like, oh, I watched a beautiful film, but it was in the format of an Instagram reel. And yet I'm completely and absolutely moved. So what does this really mean for the future of short format? What does it mean for micro dramas and verticals that are coming on forth? And I really found that conversation and dialect very interesting about ratios and everything. But I'd love to know also what you think of the same.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your kind of opening up to the idea of it. I found it both thrilling and frustrating to shoot vertically, and the reason it's thrilling is it's a I used to do still photography, so sometimes you shoot horizontal, sometimes you go vertical
Yeah,
depending on the
yeah,
subject.
yeah.
So in that case, it makes sense. Now, what I appreciate about the old like 35 millimeter format was it was a 3:2 ratio, but
Oh,
so it's a little wider when you're on the vertical. On when you're doing 9:16, that is like really only good for someone talking to
oh
camera.
Lord.
You know,
Yes. Yes,
so
yes.
so it does get a little tricky when you get into like a dialogue scene with like if you want a two shot, like how much of the ceiling do you want or floor, like it gets a little weird. So it's just kind of funny to me,
Yeah.
but at the same time when you're I know you can hold this for some reason. People have now decided they can only hold a phone this way, right? They can't go like that.
Yeah.
So I guess if your intention is to shoot for Instagram or one of these new vertical soap opera type shows, I think people ultimately you have to remember that as filmmakers, we're thinking about this way more than other people are.
Yeah,
Other people
yeah.
are
I
just
mean,
like, what's the story?
yeah, I think it's very much like we're not just approaching this in terms of, oh, this is a different format on Instagram. We're approaching this is a different form of storytelling. So I think definitely I hate to say it, but sometimes a part of me is very conservative when it comes to like filmmaking, and I want to be a traditional filmmaker, which is, give me an IMAX screen and give me original film. At the same time, the world is changing. So what is interesting is while I come from a background of film, my family is from a background of tech. So my dad is very AI heavy, very like vertical person. And that leads to a lot of dinner table arguments for sure. But more than that, it's sort of opening up my eyes on why does this matter as a different form of storytelling. Even when, as you were saying, if you use your phone horizontally, Instagram does unfortunately convert that into like a silver screen and then it's black and black on top. So it doesn't give you an immersive experience. And you have to either like tilt your phone, which most people are not going to do, or it looks half empty. And even when I think a lot of film pages now that they've started taking, extracts and clips from different films to post, it ends up looking extremely zoomed in because they can only focus on one part of it. And now they're trying to shoot vertical so that they can get the vertical on their screen. My problem is just, is this truly like a format of storytelling that we want to incorporate in all forms of cinema? Like, I'm all right with it being on Instagram. But then again, when I saw Mommy, I was like, perhaps I'm wrong. And perhaps it does work in filmmaking to a large extent. And it's just the fact that I'm seeing it on Instagram that's restricting my ideology behind if it works and if it doesn't work. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think also we have to think about it as, like you said, different formats. So if you're shooting for IMAX, you're not thinking about a phone at all, right? That's just that's anti-immersive, really. So really, like if I've poked around a little bit at some of these so-called vertical micro dramas, the stories are not cinematic per se because they're all just people delivering information. So I think you just have to think of it as an entirely different format, not like, oh, this is a bad version of a TV show. It's like a soap opera, basically. And nobody
It's
ever
very
said,
similar.
yeah,
Yeah.
nobody ever watched the soap opera for the look of it, right? People watch the soap opera for the drama.
Yeah, exactly. I also think micro dramas, I'm not quite aware about like how America or the UK are also approaching micro dramas exactly. But the way that micro dramas are being approached in Bombay is very interesting, which is a lot of brands are taking these micro dramas to promote their cafe or their restaurant. There is a cafe in Bombay, it's called Mokai, who I've shot for. They essentially feature their waiters and their staff in these micro dramas and build this narrative almost around the cafe and this world around it. Which I mean, I think that's very interesting because what you're doing is not only are you creating this production, but you're also involving your brand, your ethos, your waiters, your staff in it, which generally got me to thinking, like, is this a form of marketing or is this a genuine narrative approach? Like, are we approaching this as a marketing scheme or are we approaching this as a storytelling narrative scheme? Because I think the distinction needs to be clear. And a lot of brands and a lot of marketing people don't want to admit that this is not a short film, this is not a drama, this is a way to market your product, and that's very fair. But my entire Substack article was also very much about call it what it is. If it's a vertical drama, call it a vertical drama, don't call it a short film. That's I think that's again where I stand, very much just like label it as it is.
What this really strikes me as is a a step up from the branded content that everybody's been pushing for the last 15 years. Was branded content also like this cafe thing that you did? Was that what you'd call branded content, or was that more of a?
Definitely. I think so. One thing again, as I'm working in like creative campaigning and I'm working in creative strategy, not just film direction, the reason that I'm so open to it and I'm not being very traditionalistic in terms of I work in film and I will never work in brand strategy and I will never be sucked into the world of advertising is because I genuinely find it interesting. And I also think that the lines between the entertainment we watch on a large screen and the entertainment we watch on a shorter screen, the lines are blurring. And I'm watching that happen in front of me with the brands that I'm working with. So Mokai, the brand thing that we did, I could call it branded content. I could also say it was an interesting clip from what could have been like a shorter film, like it could have been a larger format of a short film. And in that way, I like that it has a narrative, it has a spine, it has a story, it has characters and actors. At the same time, it's pushing the product. It's almost like a step up from what an ad would be. So the middle point between a short film and an ad, that's where I think this is falling into. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't take away from cinema per se. It takes away, it's just a different thing, right? So I don't think we need to be mad about it. We got to make money. We got to earn a living, and I've earned the least amount of money from cinema, and the most amount of money from either working on ads or working on music videos or TV series, things like that. So
Yep.
there's just you know, it's like, what's wrong with making money? You got to pay rent and all that.
Gotta pay the rent,
And
gotta pay the rent. Yeah, yeah.
but again, like what's great is I've found a way to basically, you know, buy equipment that I can rent out when I shoot, and then use that equipment to make my own shorts, documentaries, feature, whatever it is that I want to do. That's giving me sort of artistic freedom or satisfaction.
I agree. I think it's opened up a conversation on accessibility a lot as well, which is like if cafes can make episodic content without needing Hulu or Disney Plus or Prime to sponsor them, that's also interesting because you can get these like snippets of real narrative and real story from anywhere in the world. I'd also be very interested to know like how it is working in America. Like our brands also, I know there's one micro drama series that I really like called The Brooklyn Coffee Shop. I don't know if you're
I haven't heard of that. What's so? I mean, that's about as New York as you can be, the Brooklyn coffee shop.
yeah,
Uh, so, what kind of story is going on there? Is it like between the barista and the customers, or do different customers come in and that becomes its own story, or how does it work?
it's very interesting. It's basically these two influencers who made up a fictitious coffee shop. So Brooklyn Coffee Shop is not a real coffee shop. They've made up a fictitious coffee shop and they're kind of reimagining the kind of customers they get. So it's very much like per episode, it's a customer archetype and very like what kind of people exist in Brooklyn, what kind of people exist in Queens. You get these like Bushwick art students, you know. So it's sort of like that, but it's episodic content. And I think they just won a Webby as well, which is for micro dramas. But I think that is the most successful micro drama that I've seen currently on my Instagram coming in from Brooklyn. But I'd love to know if there's anything you've seen that, especially in your corner of the world, that's been enticing.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked in too much. I wasn't too impressed with the micro dramas I did find, so I kind of stopped
Yeah.
looking. I also had a movie to shoot, so that kind of took away my
Yes.
concentration.
Yes. Yes.
But this summer, I think I'll try to kind of dive in again or see what I could do. What you were just describing reminds me a little bit of the show High Maintenance, where the weed dealer goes around from one person to another, and you know, then the story follows that whoever's getting high that week. So
It's
it's a good
definitely
way to it's a good format for that weekly series. Like
yeah.
the old shows when I was growing up would have a monster of the week. Like if it was the X-Files, you'd get a different alien or monster or
All
weird
right.
thing. So each week they have a different thing to solve. Here it's a different couple at the coffee shop, or a different, you know, person getting high, whatever it is. So if you can think of a good kind of place that people go a lot, you know, I think that's a
Yeah.
good kind of place to
Yeah.
base it on.
Keep it running. I think it's been going on for almost a year now. It's been they've been churning out episodes, if I'm not wrong, almost every week. And they've even scaled the production now. So it's they have like a crew in place, they have ACs in place and ADs in place. Before it was just the camera. I think, I mean, I see the jury is still out for me when it comes to our micro drama as the way forward for branded entertainment. But I do think if done well, I don't hate it. It is significantly better than a lot of like in your face advertising. And it does help a lot in world building. It does help in brand marketing. Would I stick by it completely and say this is an interesting form of entertainment? No. Do I think it's decreasing our attention spans? Absolutely. Do I also believe to a large point to what you said, which is this just like, not really like narrative? Is it also like a soap opera almost, where it's not really like a long narrative, it's a little entertainment here and there? Yes. So to all those points, yes, but it's still to sometimes when done well, Brooklyn Coffee Shop being a primary example, it is entertaining. It's not the worst thing in the world, as I thought it would be.
Uh, yeah, I think I like to look at this as education for myself. Like, you know, no matter what I work on, you know, each time I've gone to a different format, I've had to kind of learn the new format. Like when I started shooting music videos, I learned on my first music video, I'd worked on a lot as a lighting person or whatever, but as the cinematographer, I suddenly realized halfway through the video, I was shooting it more like a narrative movie, and I needed to loosen it up. I needed to not worry about continuity of lighting, things like that, that were so ingrained in me from over a decade of movies, and like consistency. So I think the same thing goes for a branded entertainment like that, where you can just say, well, if I'm doing a 2 minute movie, so to speak, or a
Yeah.
1 minute project, like what is the essence of storytelling that gets you in, hooks you, gives you something that feels some sort of satisfaction as a viewer, and then leaves you either wanting more or feeling a sense of conclusion. So as a filmmaker, whether you're doing a 2 hour movie, like you still need to use all that, and over and over again, like the 2 hour movies broken into smaller segments that could be like short films almost. So I would look at it that way. Like there's no reason to say, oh, I'll never do that, because if you can do that, then maybe you can do the bigger thing too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think again, a large inspiration was also Xavier Dolan. Like when he was beginning to make films very much in the 2010s and like early 2016s, the idea of time lapses became a thing as well. So you see that integrated in a film that I also watched about friendships that he talked about queer love as well. He's using time lapses in it. So it's very much like he's also so fascinated by how we're telling films and very less fascinated by the traditionalistic ways of telling them, if you see a time lapse back then, somebody could say, that's weird. Why am I seeing something I see on an iPhone on the big screen? But then the way that we've evolved so far, I think it's very much we tend to observe these technologies in a very fearsome way. And I definitely tend to, unfortunately, be like very worried of, is this decreasing my attention span? Is this something that I'm taking as like a microdose to what could be a larger film? And if we are not, if we genuinely can make really good narratives out of them, and again, as I said, have a really good story behind it, then why not? It's another format. We're happy to explore it. Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, and we just have to stay, open-minded or growth mindset, in whatever way you like to think of it, but just like keeping an open mind to, like, all right, where's all this going? And I have a tendency to be like, oh, I know how to make a movie, but of course, movie making itself has evolved so much decade by decade. So why are you making a movie? Like some of the things can just stay the same. Like we always need to connect to the actors and the story, and want to know what's going to happen next. Those are the basics. But the way that films are shot now compared to decades ago is completely different.
It
Um,
is. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's fun to be able to like look back and watch older movies, get new inspiration, or say, oh, look what they were doing in the 1960s or the 50s or 40s. um, so what are you looking to do in the coming years? I mean, are you trying to expand what you're doing, or trying to get your features made? Like what's the next couple of years look like for you?
Yeah, I think my favorite answer and my primary answer would be to make the feature that I'm currently developing. So my friend and I, we wrote this script called Mother Mother. It's this feature, it's based in Mykonos and London, very much inspired by some musings of mine as well, because I was in London for quite a bit and what I picked up from there as well. And we've gotten producers attached just to sort of figure out distribution. I think shooting that, getting that made, getting that scene and having people connect to that would be my favorite thing ever if I can accomplish that. In the meantime, again, like working in the format of these verticals and micro dramas and trying to figure out where I really stand on them, what my boundary is. Even when it comes to AI, what my boundary is, I'm having a lot of fun experimenting with what works with me and what does not work with me. Definitely having sort of understood micro dramas a bit, my next conquest is where do I fit when it comes to artificial intelligence in the film industry? I again very, very like fearsome of that being like I'm hearing conversations about the fact that it's overtaking the industry, and I know that that takes a lot of years. At the same time, the way that the world is so rapidly changing, I am a little scared. I would love to know your opinions on AI as well and how you think it fits in the film industry.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely fits in. The terrifying thing is, what does it do to the film industry? And we're seeing a lot of pushback from not only film workers, but also I think people that are getting really tired of seeing these sloppy, AI kind of
Yep,
generated things.
yep,
Uh, so I think it's a two-edged sword where, it could help in, say, cheapening the how much it costs to create digital backgrounds or create
Yep.
entire shots even. But of course, then you have to factor in, well, like, how can we even pay to see a movie if we haven't, if we don't have jobs to, make money to go see the movie?
Exactly. And I mean, of course, I like not to hone on this for too long because this will take like another 4 hours. But I think that when it comes to filmmaking or when it comes to writing and skill, it is a human craft. It that requires time, patience, experience. It requires you to having lived your life and speak with human context. It is not something that relies on efficiency. It is not something that relies on deadlines or some sort of like a corporate, setup. It is made for the human experience. And if it is not made for efficiency, why are we incorporating sort of tech-led approach to something that's so human? And I think that's pretty much where I stand right now. But it could change. Who knows? It could change.
Well, I think a big part of the skepticism too is that for the last 25 years, we've allowed these tech companies to build up into our everything, into every aspect of our lives. And they sold themselves as making our lives better. And we've seen our lives get worse in real time.
If someone's coming up to me and saying that this is inevitable, like the AI revolution is inevitable, the tech revolution is inevitable, my reply to that is people like these are making it inevitable. It can be stopped. It can be spoken to about. I don't understand why we are letting people who are so detached from, the humane experience and the human emotion control and have interference on something that is quite literally a tool to express our stories and express our lives. Because that's when, I mean, that's the last straw. Controlling our data and controlling our privacy is one thing. Controlling who we are as a species and as a race and the stories that we get to tell is that's our legacy. And if that's also in their hands, and truly, what do we have for us? I think that's what I have. Yeah, yeah.
No, I have no interest in reading a book written by a computer. I mean, if you want to give me an instruction, like, oh, how do I find this thing in Premiere? Oh, there it is. Okay, thanks, Gemini. Like, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
I don't want to know what Gemini went through when Gemini was a teenager and high school being bullied. What was that like, Gemini? Like, how did you react when someone put a gross thing in your locker? Like
Yeah.
100% not interested. Fuck Gemini's high school experience.
I also think, yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree. Yeah.
I think there's going to be this. I mean, there's already a backlash, but I think it's going to grow stronger. And I do think that people are going to want human made things. Like, for example, there was the young author who got, she denies it. She was British, I think, that, she was about to have her first book published, and people were claiming that a lot of it was AI written. And that just completely tanked it. So I think that threat, I hope, stops people from trying to pull a fast one.
Absolutely.
Like, if you're writing with AI, that should be front and center. This was written with AI.
Yes. Yes.
Everything I write on Substack is me. It's my 30 years in the film business coming out of my head.
I also heard an author mention, I think maybe it was the same author who said that she was afraid of mentioning on her title that it was written by AI because she thought that people would buy it less. And I said, of course we would buy it. Why would I buy something why am I reading a book that has nothing to do with anything, like a random software written about something that I don't even relate to, when I can read something written by a person who has that experience, who's gone through that skill, who understands the craft. I don't understand. It doesn't compute at all to me.
So I'm glad we're aligned here. We'll stay strong.
Absolutely. Definitely. Next Substack article is about, I think I wrote one about the AI industry and I just said, do not talk to me about artificial intelligence. That was just the caption. But just because I'm seeing AI films come about in India and what kind of shape are they taking, I think there needs to be some light on this. And I know the AI films are like fully fledged films are coming out. And the interesting thing is people are saying, oh, of course, this must really cut on production costs. But my thing is currently we don't have the AI software to make films. So if you are putting in money to make AI films, that must be a lot of money. Like you're pouring in a lot into a software to make an AI film. And I don't know if I can confirm this, but I definitely saw somewhere where like they're trying to come out with this Hanuman film, right? Which is in AI. That's costing twice more than a regular average film budget, which is then truly what are we doing? Then you're harming the economy, but you're also harming the environment, and also you're not creating something authentic. Why bother making a film?
We want a reason to be making our film, and or
Exactly.
I want a reason to go pay $20 and see a film. I want a reason, like, but this is the thing with AI. Like, I mean, the movie I'm making right now, it's called DINERMAN, and it's a really interesting man who lives in Queens, and he saves diners, American diners. He saves other aspects of forgotten culture. And he's just not a character AI could even come up with. AI could only average out. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if we're making projects, whether it's writing or filmmaking or even branded content that's not, just the most average of average, I think
Yeah.
that's what makes it stand out. Like if people really get tired, like there's a reason that genres go in and out of fashion. Like when Iron Man came out, no one had seen a superhero movie that good, right? And then they did it, they printed and repeated to the point where everybody got sick of them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And now it's like superhero movies are almost toxic. They've become a joke.
Yeah. I agree. I hope the same thing happens to the AI. I hope that they keep putting out the slop, and then at some point someone goes, you know what? I yearn to see something made by a human being. And I do think it'll happen. I think that at least at the pace that these people are going with AI generated content and brand content, it is going to become boring. And I think authenticity is going to become expensive again. It's going to be interesting to see something made by a person again. It's going to be, oh, you put actual time and effort into this. How interesting. I'm happy to pay real money to watch this or to see this. So yeah, I truly hope that comes about. And I hope that comes faster than it is happening. Yeah.
Well, we got to keep writing our Substack articles and building our
Absolutely.
communities,
That's
right?
yeah, that's where the revolution happens, Substack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
like the cinema club you were talking about, I think that's such a great model. I'm actually starting a small club here in New
Lovely.
York, a little micro pop-up micro cinema. So
Mhm.
I'm going to see how that goes. I'm going to start with one,
Absolutely.
and just show some films by local filmmakers and have a Q&A. But like that kind of gathering thing, I think there's a guy, Sean Glass, here in New York. He runs monthly get-togethers where he has people either showing clips or talking about films, that kind of thing. So it's really those are, I think, the future. But still, we need scale at the same time, though. It can't all be micro.
Yeah, I mean, again, the film club I go to, it happens at this guy's house with this projector, and there's lemonade, and it's just so cute, and it's just so humane to have that. There's no need for like an advertising poster. There's no billboard. They don't have an Instagram presence either. It's just a WhatsApp group. It's a group chat which says come, shooting is happening, and then we just watch it. Yeah. And then there's no like official like person being like, let's have a Q&A. It's just a bunch of people who work in the film industry who've never spoken, who are like, oh, we like the ratio on this, or we like that. And it's a very fun way to connect. And I think that is, as you're saying, I hope that's the future on a grander scale as well, if that's possible. But yeah, that'd be lovely.
Have you connected with any other Substack film writers in Mumbai or anywhere else in India?
I mean, I've definitely texted and I've spoken to quite a few, but I haven't met anybody solely from Substack. I have no online friend. I think this is the first one. But yeah, not yet. What about you? Have you connected with anybody from Substack as well?
Absolutely, yeah. No, there's now. I think LA was the first one that started doing in real life meetups, and
Oh
then
my God.
Adam Kritzer, who writes Amateur, which is a really good Substack. He started a New York one, and so we kind of switch out every month. We have a different host, and we've got a couple dozen people that come and go depending on availability. But we just meet up in a bar that has a little back room area that we can sort of reserve, and it's been great because, like, it's one thing to read people's writing, but then getting in person together
It's
is
lovely. Yeah.
it's just so much better.
I agree. I mean, my favorite platform right now is definitely Substack. I love a place that has long form essays and people are not afraid of writing 2,000, 3,000 worded essays and people are reading them and it feels so lovely to not have people tweet 10 worded. I mean, I know it's still happening, but it's still lovely. And what you're describing, I think that would also be lovely to implement in Bombay. I would love to see if I can do something like that. To read people's work, but also be able to meet them. It would be a great time. Let me see what I can do.
Yeah, maybe you could convert your cinema club, get some of them writing on Substack, and then you can, who knows? Not everybody feels comfortable sharing.
That I
It's it's a it's a scary thing. So how did it feel when you first started publishing? Maybe not even on Substack before. Like when was? Do you remember when you first like sort of shared something very personal and were like worried about it?
Yes. I don't want to say that I am a perfectionist because I'm not, but I do struggle with I love being on set and I love shooting. I hate having to see the final product and being like, I feel like I can do better. And obviously I can't go shoot it. So I do struggle with that gap between I shot it, I know it was a good shoot, but to put this product out without any context is very scary. I wish I could like write a 3,000 word caption on that post being like, so this is why I made it. This is the reference. Go watch this before you see this. To let a product exist independently is a very scary thing for me. But the first time I ever did, it was I was leaving London essentially, and I had a very small camera, like I had a digicam of sorts, but it was from TikTok shop. And I just shot all these places in London where I used to study and I used to be with my friends and I used to work. And I just put like a voiceover of a voice message I had sent to somebody a couple of years ago on that. And I posted on Instagram and I was so worried because it was such a vulnerable, vulnerable thing. And it had really good reception, thankfully. But since then, I mean, even now, like I recently shot something 2 weeks ago and it's currently in edit and I have to publish it tomorrow. I know I have to, but it's just such a scary thing to just put something out. And I still to this day, I still struggle to do that. If some company publishes something that I've done for them, I still struggle to put that on my story, or I still struggle to be like, I directed it, it was me. Because it's just, I think that association between how I perceive it and how others will perceive it is the gap is still very, very scary. What about you? I mean, you're making films, and isn't that very scary to put that out there as well?
I've been doing cinematography so long that something I've shot I'm very confident in,
Oh,
but
lovely.
it was terrifying the first time I published something on Substack, at all, because it was
Oh,
kind of a takedown piece. But what got me writing
ooh.
finally was the new Bob Dylan movie, which I thought was thoroughly enjoyable and utterly predictable and kind of annoying. Just as a musical biopic, it's just a paint by numbers kind of movie. And Bob Dylan's been a huge part of my life in terms of music and just, moving to New York and all that. And so I just felt like, oh man, the Hollywood version. And I didn't expect anything better, but I still was like, you know what? I just need to write about this. And that after 3 years of procrastinating, of actually starting my Substack, I'd just been reading. That finally got me off my ass. And but so it was a little scary. But I only had four subscribers, so I knew it couldn't go that far. But then about a half year later, I'd been writing reviews, I'd been writing different things, and I finally shared something about like super personal. It was about my first job, the movie Happiness from 1998, and I wrote it as I saw that they were re-releasing it for an anniversary, and so I thought, oh, maybe I'll just write about like what lessons did I learn as a PA on happiness, and I wrote 10 lessons, and I got very personal, but I also because a lot of major effed up things happened to me on that job, but I didn't want to make it a grinding axe kind of thing. So I kept names out of it. I didn't say who did what to me, but I did say if you're going to be a production assistant or starting on your first movie, someone's going
Oh
to
yeah.
screw you over somewhere. So,
Yep.
again, like 30 years down the line, I'm not mad about it, but these are lessons I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
And I almost didn't hit publish. I just was like, oh my God, can I even do
Uh,
this? And
oh,
it actually it was the biggest thing. It got a huge reception. Um, and that just made me realize, wait a minute, there's a lot of people on this platform who are writing much better movie reviews than I am. What I can write is what in the 30 years of my shooting and lighting and all these different experiences I've had, I can share a lot. I've been teaching for 22 years. I should really just be writing life lessons or set lessons more so. Like I do still love to write about Kurosawa or some films I love, but a lot of my Substack's become about like, how do you do this? Here's a crazy thing that happened that made me realize you can do that, whatever.
Yeah.
Like keeping an
Yeah.
open mind. But I would say definitely like your writing is so good. I so enjoy it. So don't even think about like, is this too much or can I not share this? Because I guarantee you, anything you're nervous about, at least for me, anything I'm nervous about always plays way better, gets more reactions, more shares, more likes than when you're just like, oh, let me write the safe thing. Because people all can relate to it, right?
I completely agree. I think the last post, the one that I sent you, was also the byline of that was it's a job occupational hazard of a Substack article because it's about what I do. And I think very similar to what you're saying as well, less from personal experience and more from like I don't feel as experienced and I don't feel like I have a sort of really guaranteed seat in that room to have that opinion. But because something like micro dramas or verticals are coming about and we're all as new to it as I am, I feel a bit more confident. I'm like, okay, I know where I stand because everybody's, an amateur at this. But definitely I do feel nervous critiquing AI or critiquing the microdrama industry because I know that real people do put in real effort and real time and their soul into things. And I never want to be at the front of being like, so this is not a film. I never want to do that. I think I'm just coming from a place of the industry is changing and it's changing so rapidly. And I would love to be a commenter on it. I'd love to observe and I'd love to give my 2 cents as much as possible. But yeah, I think as long as I can keep doing that without wanting to jeopardize anybody's job or wanting to jeopardize anyone's sentiments, I'm happy with it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we do have to keep in mind that every major transformation has brought new jobs we didn't even know about or couldn't have known about, right? So again, I'm not trying to put lipstick on a pig here, but you want to keep some amount of open-mindedness while also a healthy skepticism and not being a sucker, but like let's trust that humans want to watch human art. I don't want to see a painting made by a robot. Maybe I'll
Absolutely not.
I'll look at paintings made by elephants even. I love those elephant paintings. Like those feel magical to me. I don't know if you've seen those, but those
I
are,
don't know what you're talking about. What
oh,
else is painting?
Google it. Like there's elephants that paint. They're somewhere, I forget if it's in India or Sri Lanka, somewhere, where the elephants roam. But, and I'm sorry, I can't, I'm just talking here without evidence, but I do know I've seen
I'm
them.
writing this down.
Okay. The
Yeah.
elephant paintings are real.
Elephant paintings.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So
Yes.
maybe with elephant paintings overtaking AI, we got to get those trunks going.
I'm
And
I'm down for that. I'm down for the elephant revolution. That's fine with
yeah,
me. I would much rather that, honestly. That's fine.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
elephants. We got to work with an elephant on that movie I did in India. And it's just,
Yeah.
they're such magical creatures. They're just so
They're so
beautiful.
nice, beautiful. I love elephants too. Beautiful, beautiful creatures. I'm all for them taking my job. Elephants can take my job. That's fine. That's okay.
We'll just hang back and keep the feed coming. They need a lot of food. Honestly, it was just so wonderful to talk to you and get to know you a little bit. I really uh, rooting for your new feature, and keep those Substack articles coming. And if you're not a subscriber to New Age Directors, check them out on Substack.
Thank you so much. It was such a wonderful conversation with you, Alan. I will be looking out for your Substack more as well. I'm so glad I sent you that text and I sent you that article and that we got connected. And now I am an active subscriber to your Substack as well. We're on it.
Excellent, excellent, love it. Keep those subscribers growing.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be there. And I will let you know if I start a Substack Mumbai club. I will let you know that happens. It could happen, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to make it's so easy. All you have to do is be vulnerable. That's all.
Ooh, that's a lot, but I will attempt. I will attempt it. Yeah.
To vulnerability.
200 bullets. Yeah. Lovely.